All right. Mykel Williams, edge rusher out of Georgia, 6'5", 265. He's a third-year junior, so he's also could return to school if he so chooses a season from now. But I had him as the ideal mix, speed, power, has a nonstop motor, looks pretty long on tape, and if he is, in fact, 6'5", 265, that's long. He moves well in space, shows some juice as a pass rusher, I thought he moved well laterally and north and south. There were a lot of things that jumped off the tape at me in terms of what he was able to do. Didn't do it quite as frequently as some of the other guys, but he played on the Georgia team where you have 45 stars competing for playing time. So it's just a matter of can he do it more consistently. But I thought that he did everything at a pretty high level. Rick, did you not watch Mykel, or he's not top 5 for you?
Well, I did watch him. And this was probably my brain fart of the day.
Oh, because I saw the list. I was like, okay.
This morning I'm looking at, and I'm going through the list as I get prepared so I can do a good job for Harry, the producer, on the behind the window there, whatever the hell he's doing right now. And I was like, why did I not? And, because there was some pretty good pass rushers here. I don't want to be biased towards the Ohio State kids, but if you grade his flashes, they're pretty damn good.
Right.
Because he is a unique athlete. He has unique speed. I think he plays with his hair on fire. My two biggest negatives were he plays too tall. He has a high pad level, and technically he's all over the place. But if he's almost like a here was my comp to him. I'll just go ahead and put it right out the bat. And I don't know who the hell you guys thought he was, but I'm going back and forth. And, you can see Walker a little bit in him, who was a little raw that came out, was the number 1 overall pick.
Trevon.
Yeah. But mine was Danielle Hunter, is what the flashes I saw a little bit in him. Not a lot of production, but played hard. And everything and all the negatives that he has should be correctable with coaching if he checks all the boxes, and it looks like he does, at least the way he plays, with passion, good kid, wants to get better, all that stuff. But that was my probably brain fart of the day, that he should have been up there. And then I had him below those guys, and then usually I tried to go back, and I didn't go back, and I'm like, what are you doing with your life right now?
That's usually what you say to me, so I feel better about that. So Danielle was a third rounder.
Third round pick.
What do you think about Mykel?
I think if he takes a step forward, he's a first round pick.
Okay.
I just had him not as polished as some of these other guys, but may have a much higher ceiling or higher upside to him. So I can see, and I always talk to you, Ryan, just side on the optimism on these players during the summer, and then we'll get corrected as we go down. And I didn't follow my rule of siding on the optimism. And then I was like, well, Danielle was a third rounder. Maybe I should keep him a little bit below that right now.
Yeah.
But, technically Danielle should have been, we got lucky to get Danielle in the third round. So I was going with that Danielle Hunter situation, right? Not Danielle Hunter that we see now, but Danielle Hunter, what I did before going into the season. And even during the season, we drafted him in the third. He didn't have to, he had 1.5 sacks. But you've seen a lot of the same physical traits and God-given gifts that this kid has.
All right. Well, I'll be interested to see what you think of the comp game in a second. But Mike, you had Mykel Williams as your number 2 edge rusher behind James Pierce.
Yeah, he's quintessential Georgia defensive line. Like the guys they've turned out in recent years are all just freak athletes they really haven't developed high-end pass rushers. Like they are not in that regard. They play the run really well. They're very disciplined. They play hard, but he does not have much in his toolbox as a pass rusher just yet. But again, a young guy, but the pure size, length, explosiveness combo, like if he just figures out a bull rush, you said he rushes too tall, and I agree, but if he just figures that out, if he sinks a little bit more, he doesn't need too much more. He's like in that caliber of athlete that 1 to 2 moves, he can be a problem. So because of that, that's why I'm pretty high on him. I think ultimately he ends up in the top 10 to 15 in the draft. And I think at the Florida State game, in the bowl game, you really saw like the potential of what he could be.
That Florida State game was unfair. That's the Rice that was the Rice on their schedule last year.
Yeah. I'm still looking for that defensive end from Rice. I haven't been able to find him yet.
Well, it's funny because when I look at these edge rushers in particular, I go to look to see where they had the most pressures and sacks, and he put up like 50 sacks and 85 pressures against Florida State. I was like, wait, when was that game? I was like, oh, it was the bowl game.
Just so you know, I didn't watch that game because I'm not going to judge him off.
But to Mike's point, I mean, you saw flashes of that throughout the year, and I thought it was interesting to Mike talking about that there's not a lot in his pass rush arsenal. They use him a lot on twists and stunts, just to say use your athleticism to win through the A or B gap and then harass people, and that's sort of what he did. I think he's a probably middle of first rounder right now. I think he's a little higher for me than obviously James Pierce Jr., but you guys like James a little better. All right, Rick, you ready for the game here?
Yep.
And I think these players sort of fit into the Danielle Hunter mode. We'll see what you think.
Did you like my Danielle Hunter comparison?
Yeah, but something to keep in mind, and this is going to show up a few more times, I feel like, Mike. Rick leans on hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of scouting research to use the former Minnesota Vikings comps as his comps for these players, where, I'm working on a shoestring budget here. So that's a little unfair. But I like Danielle Hunter as a comp here. All right, here we go. You ready?
Yep.
You're 0-1 so far. Max Crosby and Bud Dupree.
I'm going to go with Mike, and I'm going to go with Bud Dupree.
Oh, you didn't fall for it. You got that right. You got it right. Mike said Bud. I said Max. Is Max too rich? Because Max came out, he was a little. No one was talking about Max. Who Max
One
is
thing
now.
I'll say about Max is he plays another guy that plays with his hair on fire, and he's gotten better. But I don't think he is fluid of an athlete.
Ooh.
I think as this kid is.
Oh, you think Michael's more fluid than Max?
Oh yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's why I kind of lean, because I don't know where you come up with your comps. It's amazing to me some of the comps you come up with, but I try to look at athleticism and things like that. So
I would just say this: if Mykel Williams ends up being Max Crosby and you get him in the 15th, middle of the first round, I think you feel pretty good about that.
Where was Crosby drafted?
He's fourth rounder, wasn't he?
Fourth, yeah.
Danielle, third round. That's where I kind of made my brain fart.
Draft the athletes that fall there.